Every weekend, you see millions of golfers step onto the range and they try to fix their swing by just forcefully squeezing their elbows together.
Right, yeah, they really think they're staying connected. But according to the latest sports science, they are actually making their swing significantly worse.
Because they are essentially treating, a cosmetic symptom, right? Instead of addressing a core biomechanical failure.
Exactly. And by just forcing that position, they are physically blocking their body's ability to rotate.
Wow, okay. Well, welcome to this deep dive. Today, we are pulling back the curtain on a highly detailed premium instructional text titled Elbow Separation, Shoulder Rotation, and a More Efficient Transition.
Yeah, it's a fantastic source. Really gets into the weeds.
It really does. And our mission for you today is to decode the exact biomechanics of what experts call the elbow gap. We are going to look at that tiny, almost imperceptible fraction of a second where the backswing ends and the downswing begins.
Right, the trans.
Exactly, the transition. We are moving away from traditional, vague golf advice and, getting into the actual human machinery. How your joints, muscles, skeletal structure, how all of it must organize itself under immense rotational force to create a powerful, repeatable swing.
It is basically the most critical juncture in the golf swing. The transition dictates literally everything that follows.
Yeah.
If the initial sequence is compromised there, well, the body is just forced to spend the rest of the downswing in a state of emergency recovery.
Okay, let's unhack this machinery, starting right at the top of the backswing. Because when you look at professional golfers at the top of their swing, you notice their elbows aren't actually pinned tightly together.
Right, they aren't.
There is some visible space between them. And reading through our source material, I realized that, well, some separation at the top isn't a flaw at all. It's anatomically necessary.
It absolutely is.
Your rib cage has rotated massively, your lead arm is elevated across your chest, and your trail arm has folded. The shoulder complex has to create some space just to accommodate that turn, right?
Yeah, and that is a fundamental baseline we need to establish for you listening. The problem does not exist at the top of the swing.
Oh.
The structural failure we are talking about occurs the moment the downswing begins.
The actual transition.
Exactly. The critical error happens when the elbows, which already have some natural space between them, continue moving farther apart as the body changes direction.
So let's look at the chain reaction of what happens when those elbows just fly apart in transition. According to the text, it's basically a cascade of upper body failures.
Oh, it really is.
First, the lead arm moves away from the ribcage, losing its connection to the torso. Then, instead of dropping underneath, the trail elbow flares outward.
Yeah, the classic chicken wing look.
Right. And finally, the trail shoulder internally rotates way too early.
And when you combine those three movements, you create a massive problem with the delivery path of the golf club. Because those upper body parts are disconnecting and flaring outward, the hands are aggressively pushed away from the body's center.
And centrifugal force is already pulling the mass of the club head outward anyway, right?
Exactly. So when the arms lose their anchor to the rotating torso, they just surrender to that force. The shaft steepens rapidly, and the club is now completely outside the intended delivery corridor.
And here is where it gets really fascinating to me, because this brings in the brain's role in the swing. The club head is moving at an incredible speed, and it is coming down on a steep outside path.
Yeah, it's a recipe for disaster.
Right. The brain's proprioceptive system senses an impending disaster. It knows the club is on a crash course with the ground behind the ball.
Yeah, and the brain is highly protective. It prioritizes hand-eye coordination, basically just making contact with the ball and avoiding injury way over biomechanical efficiency.
Makes sense.
It knows that if the swing continues on that steep path, the club is just going to smash violently into the turf.
So the body goes into total panic mode. To avoid hitting the dirt, the golfer is forced into these desperate split-second compensations.
Yep, you see it all the time.
You see them standing up out of their posture, what we call early extension, just to create physical space for that steep shaft, or they pull the handle sharply to the left.
Or they do the worst one.
Oh, my personal favorite. They completely stall their body rotation and just rely on a frantic, millimeter-perfect hand correction at the absolute bottom of the swing.
Yeah, and relying on those emergency hand corrections means your swing is entirely dependent on timing. It is exhausting, and more importantly, it is completely unrepeatable. You cannot consciously time a micro-correction at 90 miles an hour consistently.
You just can't. So that is the underlying mechanism of the problem. Your body's panicking because your arm's disconnected in the transition. Now, let's get into the cure. Our source text outlines the biomechanics of the fix using two specific scientific terms, lead arm adduction and trail shoulder external rotation.
Right. Those are the keys.
I want to break these down so you can physically feel what they mean. Let's start with lead arm adduction. In anatomy, adduction means bringing a limb toward the midline of the body.
Adding it to the body.
Right, adding it. So in the early downswing, the late upper arm begins to move back toward the chest rather than separating away from it.
This movement is the anchor,
Wow.
really. By bringing the upper arm toward the rib cage, the hands are naturally drawn closer to the body's center.
Which counters the outward push.
Exactly. It completely counters that excessive outward hand path we just discussed. It gives the shaft the structural support it actually needs to shallow out, and it resists the centrifugal force that wants to just throw the arms away from the body.
Wait, let me push back on this for a second, because when you hear, bring the arm to the chest, the immediate instinct for a lot of players is to clamp that lead arm as tightly to the torso as humanly possible.
Oh yeah, the towel drill.
Right, it's that classic drill where you pin a towel under your armpit and try not to drop it. But based on what we are reading in this text, that seems like a terrible idea.
It is. Clamping the arm is honestly one of the most destructive misinterpretations in all of golf instruction.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, if you squeeze your arm against your chest to hold a towel, you are creating massive isometric tension. You introduce total rigidity into the shoulder joint.
And you can't be rigid in a golf swing.
Right. Athletic movement requires fluidity.
Mm-hmm.
If the lead arm is pinned statically against the chest, it just cannot manage the rapidly changing forces of the downswing.
So it has to be a dynamic connection.
Yes, exactly.
The arm is moving toward the rib cage at the exact same time the chest is actively rotating toward the target. You are managing the distance between the arm and the torso, not supergluing them together.
A really helpful way to conceptualize this is to think about the shoulder blade, the scapula.
Mm-hmm.
The connection happens because the shoulder blade is naturally gliding around the back of your rib cage. It is a harmonious relationship,
Yeah.
between the arm, the shoulder blade, and the rotating thorax. It's not a clamp.
That makes a lot of sense. You've reconnected the lead arm to your chest dynamically, but that doesn't solve the whole problem. I mean, if your back arm, the trail arm, is still flaring out like a chicken wing, you're still stuck in a steep downswing.
Yeah, half the job is only half the job.
Right. And this is where trail shoulder external rotation comes in. To visualize external rotation, think of a baseball pitcher winding up, or maybe someone skipping a stone across a lake. Right before their arm whips forward to throw, the shoulder joint lays back.
Lays way back.
That laying back motion inside the socket, that is external rotation.
The pitching analogy captures the athleticism of the move perfectly, I think. During the golf transition, the trail upper arm needs to lay back or externally rotate within the shoulder joint.
Okay.
And when this happens, the trail elbow is able to reorganize into a highly functional position. It basically tucks underneath the shoulder, moving closer to the lead elbow, and positions itself right in front of the trail hip.
It tucks in and creates space.
Exactly. And this specific rotation is what physically alters the orientation of the trail forearm and the golf club itself.
Oh, wow.
It allows the shaft to shallow out naturally behind the golfer without the player ever having to, aggressively manipulate the club with their wrists or hands. It creates this massive delivery corridor for the handle to travel through impact.
So this isn't just about moving arms in space. We are really talking about the entire shoulder complex, as the text calls it.
Right, the whole system.
The upper arm joints, the collarbones, the rib cage, and the shoulder blades all working together. So when we talk about narrowing the elbow gap, we are not talking about flexing your pecs and squeezing your elbows together.
Not at all. The muscles in your upper back are actually doing a massive amount of the heavy lifting here.
Upper back.
Yeah. During transition, the lead scapula glides in response to the lead arm reconnecting, while the trail scapula adjusts to the trail shoulder laying back. You should really feel this sequence in the movement of your back, not as tension in your forearms or biceps.
That's a huge distinction.
It is. The arms are simply being reorganized by the larger skeletal system.
Which brings us to a massive misconception that the text just blows wide open. I mean, here's where it gets really interesting. You see golfers on the range who know they are too steep. They know they need to shallow the club.
Oh, yeah, constantly.
So what do? They physically push the shaft behind them with their wrists and hands at the start of the downswing. They try to artificially create the shallowing move.
Yeah, and the text is definitive on why that isolated hand manipulation fails. Shallowing the golf club is not a conscious action you perform with your hands.
It's not action at all.
No, shallowing is a direct physical consequence of proper biomechanical sequencing.
It's the effect, not the cause. You can't fight the physics of a swinging club with just your wrists.
What blew my mind in the research is that this transition isn't just one simultaneous movement. It's a very specific chain reaction that happens in a fraction of a second, like falling dominoes.
A very fast chain reaction, yes.
It actually starts with the pelvis, right? Domino number one is the lower body changing direction. The pelvis initiates the downswing.
Right, and domino number two is the rib cage turning in response to that pelvic movement. The torso begins to clear.
Okay, and because the arms are attached to the rib cage, well, they have to respond. So domino number three, as the chest rotates, the lead arm adducts, meaning it moves dynamically toward the rib cage.
Yep, the anchor.
Right. Then domino number four, the trail shoulder externally rotates, laying back like that baseball pitcher we talked about.
Which triggers domino number five. Because the lead arm reconnected and the trail arm laid back, the visible gap between the two elbows actively narrows.
Got it. And domino number six, that narrowing of the elbows naturally centers the hands closer to the body, getting them off that outward steep path.
Leaving us with the final domino.
Yeah.
Because the arms and shoulders have reorganized so efficiently, the club has literally no choice but to respond.
It just falls into place.
Exactly. It falls perfectly into a shallow, functional delivery plane on its own. The sequence itself creates the shallowing.
It's an incredible sequence to visualize. But, this also brings up a critical coaching caution from our source text. A widening elbow gap, like the elbows flying apart, is almost always a symptom of a larger sequencing problem, not the root cause itself.
Right, treating the symptom.
It's like having a 103-degree fever because you have a severe infection. If you just take a pill to lower the fever, sure, the thermometer might look better, but the infection is still raging.
That's a great analogy. The widening elbow gap is the fever. The underlying infection is usually poor pelvic timing, incorrect pressure shifts in the feet, a flawed takeaway, or maybe a total lack of scapular control.
So many potential root causes.
Right. And if a golfer simply attempts to forcefully shove their elbows together without addressing that root cause, they're merely treating the symptom.
So what actually happens biomechanically if a golfer just forces it? Like, let's say I go to the range, I ignore my lower body completely, and I just aggressively slam my trail elbow into my side on the downswing to close the gap.
Well, you will completely destroy the kinematic sequence of your swing.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, if you aggressively drive the trail elbow toward your body, the upper arm becomes physically trapped behind the trail hip.
Just gets stuck.
Exactly. And when the arm is stuck there, your torso is blocked. The rib cage has to completely stop rotating just to let the trapped arm catch up. You lose all rotational power, you stall out, and your brain goes right back into panic mode.
Back to the frantic hand flipping to square the club face.
Exactly. The movement has to remain coordinated and fluid, driven by the pivot, not forced by the arms.
Okay, so we know we can't squeeze, we can't clamp towels to our chest, and we definitely can't trap the trail arm. We have to train the body to feel this dynamic sequence correctly.
Right.
Fortunately, the text provides a very specific practical application to do just that. It's called the narrow the elbow gap drill. Let's walk through how you can actually train this neuromuscular pattern on the practice tee.
So the setup is really designed to remove tension. You take your normal golf posture, ideally with a short or mid-iron. But the crucial element before you even move the club is to ensure very light grip pressure. Light grip.
Yes. You must remove the tension from your forearms and shoulders. If your muscles are rigid, you cannot sense the subtle movements of the shoulder joint and the scapular.
Light grip. Soft arms. Okay, so you move slowly to the top of your backswing. Now, for the execution, this is a slow motion rehearsal, right? Not a speed drill.
Absolutely slow motion.
As you transition down, you want to allow that lead upper arm to gently move toward your rib cage. And at the exact same time, you actively feel that trail shoulder externally rotating, laying back, so the trail elbow starts moving underneath and closer to the lead elbow.
And the physical sensation you should be paying attention to here is the path of your hands. As the shoulder complex reorganizes and the elbow gap narrows, you should feel the handle of the club moving slightly inward and downward.
Toward the body.
Right. It should not feel like it is pushing outward toward the golf ball.
So you're making this slow, deliberate move, feeling the hands drop inward. Where is the checkpoint for this?
You basically pause the entire drill when your lead arm reaches parallel to the ground on the downswing.
Okay, parallel to the ground.
You hold that position and you just run through a physical checklist. Look down at your elbows. Has the gap genuinely reduced compared to the top of your swing? Look at your trail elbow. Is it in a functional spot in front of you? Or did you accidentally pull it so hard that it is trapped behind your hip?
Right, making sure you didn't force it.
Yeah.
You also want to make sure the lead arm has reconnected dynamically, meaning you aren't squeezing it against your chest.
Yes, no tension.
You want to see the hands closer to the center of your body. And finally, you want to look at the shaft of the club. Because of all this good structural work, the shaft should appear visually shallower and way more organized.
It is also vital to check the rib cage at this pause. The torso must have begun its rotation toward the target.
It can't be static.
Right. If your chest is still pointing entirely away from the target at this checkpoint, you have used only your arms, which totally defeats the purpose of the drill.
So you hit that checkpoint, you verify the positions, you feel the lack of tension in your arms and the engagement in your upper back. Then you reset to the top and do it again. The text recommends 2 to 3 sets of 8 to 10 slow rehearsals.
Yeah. Repetition is key here.
You are essentially trying to overwrite a bad motor pattern with a highly efficient one. Once you have a feel for it, you progress to hitting balls at about 40 to 50% of your normal speed. And you only add speed if you can maintain that structural integrity in the transition.
The slow speed is mandatory for neuromuscular adaptation. The text clearly states the key sensation for this drill is feeling the lead arm reconnect while the trail shoulder rotates externally. The elbows move closer together because the skeletal system is reorganizing, not because the forearm muscles are flexing.
When you execute this drill correctly and eventually integrate it into your full swing, it acts as the ultimate antidote to the over-the-top steep downswing that plagues so many players.
It really is a game changer.
By managing the elbow gap properly, you improve your delivery path, you create massive amounts of space for your arms to travel through impact, and you completely eliminate the need for those exhausting last-second compensations. It leads directly to what every golfer is chasing, centered contact and a highly repeatable impact pattern.
It essentially transforms a swing that relies on panic timing into a swing built on true biomechanical efficiency.
It really is a complete shift in how you view the downswing. So let's look at the big picture of what we've covered today. We started with a common nightmare, an upper body that was disconnected and reacting poorly to the rotational forces of the transition.
A very familiar nightmare for most.
Right. The elbows were flying apart, the shaft was steepening, and the brain was forcing the body to stall out and flip the hands just to make contact with the golf ball.
But by understanding the mechanics of the shoulder complex, specifically dynamic lead arm adduction, the external rotation of the trail shoulder, and the gliding of the scapula, we learned how to turn that chaotic movement into a synchronized delivery system.
We learned that you cannot just forcefully shove your elbows together to look good on camera, and you certainly can't manipulate your wrists to shallow the club. Shallowing is the beautiful consequence of a dynamic, sequenced chain reaction that starts from the ground up.
The central principle of the source text synthesizes everything perfectly. The author writes, "A narrowing elbow gap is not an isolated arm action. It is the visible result of a coordinated transition. Reconnect the lead arm. Externally rotate the trail shoulder. Narrow the gap. Sharpen the move."
Reconnect, rotate, narrow, sharpen. That is a brilliant summary to take with you to the practice tee. We learned today that the shaft shallows as a consequence of a chain reaction that actually starts with the pelvis changing direction.
Exactly.
So the next time you're on the range, fighting your arms, hitting steep, weak shots, leave your elbows alone for a second and ask yourself a deeper question. Is my upper body failing, or is my lower body failing to send the right signal first?
Something to really think about.
If you found today's episode valuable, please subscribe to our channel. Every subscription helps us continue producing high-quality educational content for golfers and coaches worldwide.
If you have a question, topic idea, or golf challenge you would like us to research, test, and explain, please leave a comment, contact us on LinkedIn, or send us an email.
Don't forget to explore the eCoach 360-degree golf intelligence platform and experience our 48-hour free trial. You can also join our 30-day golf biomechanics, kinematics, ground reaction forces, and club kinematic certification program to deepen your understanding of golf performance.